Guys, today we're going to talk about weather in a grid down situation. Now, we're not going to get into some grid down that has a lot of high technology, and there's a lot out there, and we're going to go into that maybe a little bit later. But as far as basic being able to forecast weather, knowing what's going on, knowing the temperature, the humidity, the barometric pressure, all of those things have been tracked even back in the 18th century and before. And so we're going to look at some ways without any power, without any kind of pull on your power. And these are some really cool ways that I just came across. We had a question on our Sensible Prepper Live, which we do on Tuesday, and it really got me to thinking. Now, one thing that I've had, and a lot of you have seen these used to be very popular, is we have this triple threat, which has temperature, it has the barometric pressure, and it has humidity. You can kind of keep track of that. When you have high pressure, typically you have clear weather. And when you have low pressure, you usually have rain. And so they're able to gauge that. We've gotten really technologically advanced, but honestly, guys, I have my weather app here, and half the time it's a crapshoot, knowing what's going to happen. One thing, too, about having weather instruments is that it tells your weather where you are. Now, there's an old joke that says, I've got a weather rock, and I go out and look at it. When it's dry, the weather's clear. When it's wet, the weather's wet. When it blows away, we've had a hurricane or a tornado. And that's fun, but this is something that you can actually accurately or pretty close know what's going on ahead. Well, guys, here are the gauges. I've had this one for a good while. The barometric pressure on this is off. And that's one thing to be able to test, because you can look outside, and if it's raining and this says it's fair, you know that something's wrong. This is a lot more accurate, the second one. And again, we have 3 different gauges to be able to tell weather. Now here at the top, we have our temperature. And knowing the temperature is important, especially if you're getting ready to get dressed. This probably should be at least on an outside porch or on an overhang to be able to tell the weather from the outside. But a lot of these you're going to be able to get otherwise. Now here, we're looking at about 75 degrees. And we're in a building, we're in heat-controlled or temperature-controlled environment. But thermometers are pretty easy. And so this is something that's just a little bit more fancy than your standard thermometer you can just put outside. Now here we have our barometer. And high pressure means fair weather. So the higher it gets, the more good weather you're going to have. And this is showing we have fair, and we do. We had rain a couple of days ago, but now we have really nice skies. If this goes over here, even before the rain starts, you're going to know when you have a low pressure system. And so that just gives you an indication that rain is coming. And again, that's better than what the weatherman says. Okay, we're about 50 degrees. The barometric pressure is showing fair, reaches here, and of course this points to wherever you're going. If it's rainy, it just kind of moves around. And then the humidity is pretty high right now. We've had a lot of rain over the past few days. This is right here. You have 3 different indicators you can get right to. Now this is a pretty cool setup. In fact, to me, it's one of the most useful. This is the Admiral Fitzroy storm glass. When all these fibers that are at the bottom, when they are just resting, that means that you're having really good weather. As these rise up, and when it rains, and we're going to show you because we took some examples, this just moves up and it goes into different configurations. In fact, it'll go all the way to the top when you have a thunderstorm coming. Also, it detects snow and other things, and it's actually written right on the glass. All right, guys, it's raining. Been raining for a day or two. Says murky liquid, and that's what we see. Now if there's a thunderstorm, it'll actually go all the way to the top. So working good so far. Now here we have the Goethe weather globe. This is a pretty cool instrument. Now this is actually even earlier technology than what we just looked at. And what this does is you have your water in here, and I have it colored, and then as the pressure goes down, the water will come up through the tube and come all the way up. And so that way you know that it's raining. When it drops down and all the water's in the globe, or at least right here on the side, kind of lining up with your liquid and the level of your liquid, then you know that it's more clear, fair weather. And really, air pressure, even though we're in a building, this predicted the weather pretty good. It let me know what was going on. And then it'll actually start to come out the top. And we're going to go over how to feel this as well. And then we have our thermometer. Now this is a pretty cool thermometer. Obviously there's some very simple designs that are pretty cheap, but this has these small little globes, and they have a little tag hanging on it that'll tell you the weather. And as these start to lift up, it'll give you an indication. Now this is not very precise, but it'll give you enough information to be able to know, again, what you need to wear, what the temperature is outside, especially when it starts getting cold. Now these are filled with mercury, so it's just like your thermometer. They'll rise and fall, and then you have that little gold tag, and then you can see what the temperature is. And then as you go down, we have these different colored globes, and each one has a tag. And guys, these do come in a number of different configurations. I just bought this off of eBay. Some, they even have a temperature thermometer that's in the center, and of course it's on a nice wooden stand. It looks nice, but it is functional. Now filling this little globe is interesting because you use just food coloring and water because you want that different color. It comes with a little tube and a syringe. So you take the syringe, just put on the little cap of the tube. Then we're going to put the tube down in the water, and then we're just going to pull it out with our syringe. So it should just fill it up like this. Now we take our little tube and we go all the way down into the globe. Do not start filling it yet. You want to go all the way to where the tube comes out into the globe. And once you have it out, you want to turn this upside down. Then we're going to inject the water. And this will put it directly into the globe and not into the tube. Now when we have it half full, we're going to turn it up on its side. We should come about 1 inch. And you may have to turn it to get it to go. There we go, just like this. Now you want about 1 inch of water to come up the tube. And so once you have it that way, you're all set. Now we're going to have to sit and let it pick up the barometric pressure. This is pretty common with a rain gauge. You can see how much rain you've had in any given time. This just comes out, you can dump it out. I like the mounted part because that way I don't have to have it out in the yard on a rod and then I've got to move around it with my lawnmower. So I like it attached to this fence. Just makes it really easy. I also have my weather vane. And the one thing about a weather vane, of course, you need to make sure you can judge what direction this is going in. But the big thing is having it somewhere where the wind can actually reach it. You don't want it up against something. You want it out. And actually, the higher the better. But I just wanted to put this one up here because it was on the fence, and I can check both. But also, we have a wind gauge. Now this, you just put it up at the wind, and as it blows, it'll give you the miles per hour. Unfortunately, we didn't really have enough wind to where I could test this, but I will be testing it, and it doesn't require a battery or anything. So the tools that we put together are definitely specifically for weather that you need no electricity, and really, again, 1700s, 1800s, how they taught the weather, that's really the biggest thing with these. Guys, when it comes to fire, it is essential to survival, and having a good fire kit and knowing how to use it is vital for survival situations. And Exotac makes the best fire starters on the market. Made in the USA, down in Winder, Georgia. Using really high-grade aluminum, they machine some really beautiful handles, a lot of different features, replaceable ferro rods, and a number of other different fire starting tools. You get 20% off using Suits20 with a link down below in the description. And a big thank you to Exotac for sponsoring today's video. There's definitely different tools that you can use. Just like this, it tells the temperature, it also tells the humidity, it gives you a lot of information. And this is great as long as you have batteries or you have some kind of power. But once that's gone, how are you going to be able to tell the weather? And so these are just great tools to have. And honestly, they're very fascinating. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. If it's a grid down situation. Okay. All right, guys. Today we're going to talk about weather. We're going to talk about weather. Hey, here we are. watch the weather, and here I have my weather app up. You know, it's up. Yeah, I have my weather app up. But having an idea about whether it's going to rain, why is that thing off?